for all.
Welcome everyone to our December board meeting. I'll start by reading the appeal of decisions pursuant to provisions of 2.68030 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws. Please take notice that decisions of the Metropolitan Board of Parks and Recreation may be appealed to the Chancery Court of Davidson County for review under a common law writ of certiorari. Any appeal must be filed within 60 days after entry of a final decision by the board. Any person or other entity considering an appeal should consult with an attorney to ensure that time and procedural requirements are met. We will move to the consideration of minutes. We have a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. Metro Council referrals today. I know we have Council Lady Angie Henderson. Would you like to approach?
It's just for TV. I think it's just for TV.
I'm Councilwoman Angie Henderson. I serve District 34. That includes the Warner Parks. I'm also a member of the Parks, Libraries, and Arts Committee of the Council. And I'm just here today to express my strong support for your agenda item 7, which is for the grant acceptance for the 25th and final year of Jane Kleiman's much appreciated employment at the Warner Parks. I also wanted to take this opportunity, chair of our Parks Committee of the Council, Councilman Syracuse, was unable to be here today, but he asked me to please also convey his strong support in favor of agenda item 7, as well as Vice Chair of our Parks Committee, Council Lady Van Reese. She also sends her support of agenda item 7. So I know Mr. Weller will speak to Jane's 24, soon to be 25 years of service later on the agenda, but I just wanted to express the support of those 3 colleagues in that leadership role. Thank you.
Any other council? Thank you. We'll move to old business. 10-1805, staff request board approval for acquisition of approximately 2.89 acres of land known as the Anthony Stroud property for future development of Cumberland River Greenway and Wharf Park. This was referred to the acquisition committee earlier today.
The acquisition disposition committee met earlier and recommends unanimous approval.
Is there any staff report, or do we need to? I have a motion of approval. Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The second item of the acquisition committee was 11-1806. Mr. Jared Williams, P.E., representing the Harpeth Valley Utilities District, requests permission from the board for the following: a sewer easement to install a new sanitary sewer force main within the old Hicks Road roadbed greenway trail at Edwin Warner Park in order to replace an existing 12-inch cast iron sewer force main that is nearing the useful life and must be replaced. And second, an amendment to the existing sewer contract for the Warner Park Nature Center in order to abandon the existing wastewater service and replace with a new section of sewer which will continue to provide wastewater service to the Nature Center.
Our committee met and recommends approval.
Move approval. Second.
There's a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Now we'll move to the consent agenda. We can consider the entire consent agenda in its entirety, if that is so moved. Okay with everyone? We have a motion.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And moving on to new business. First item, 12-1803, Mr. John Smith, representing the Old School Barbecue Festival, requests permission to appear before the board to appeal the decision of the department to not recommend approval of the 2019 application of this event. I think Mr. Smith is here. you could approach podium, please.
I'd like to speak before Mr. Smith
All right.
speaks. And just to give you a little bit of background and the decision of the department not to approve this, there have been consistent issues with compliance with the size of the crowd for this particular event, the Old School Barbecue Festival. I've heard from police and our special events staff that while the safety plans that we prepare for is for one number, the crowd is has been oversold, and that is an issue when it comes to public safety. So we're not able to have the appropriate safety plan in place for the size of the crowd. I have also heard that this is a really good event. And so the issue here is issue with compliance. And I think Mr. Smith has spoken with our staff and with Metro Police and the specialist event staff of the city, and has said that he would comply, but we have not found that to be the case. And so in the denial of the permit, Mr. Smith is availing himself of the process to request that this body approve the permit for next year. Okay.
Good morning. Yeah, the Old School Barbecue Festival is in its 6th year. It's an annual event that we do every Labor Day weekend in conjunction with the Tennessee State University John Murray Classic. The game, TSU's football game, is on Saturday, and we usually do this concert on Sunday. And we're in our 6th year, and it's been very successful, and it's just kind of grown bigger than we thought. The city gave us part of First Avenue. We didn't have all of First Avenue, but we had part of First Avenue to put vendors in the street. And our footprint is a little different from a lot of other events at Riverfront Park. We use the concrete area down in front of the barge, because the stage is on the barge, and the area down where the concrete area is, it's full of tables and chairs. So we, instead of getting a lot of people down there just standing, we have that area full of tables and chairs, probably 700 people accommodate down there, and then the next row up on the grass is full of reserve seating, and so our footprint is a little bit different. It looks like it's a lot of people, but we have a different footprint. But basically, why I'm here today is just asking the board for I guess an opportunity to rectify whatever issues that I have as far as the crowd. We know that we caught people with fraudulent tickets, so there were a lot of extra people. Some of those people were people who bought bad tickets. So we have a lot of reasons why why the crowd is oversold, but we want to ask for another chance. We haven't had this problem last year. We didn't have, because the event has just grown. This year it really has grown, but we didn't have the problem last year, and we didn't have the problem the year before that. But this is the first year this problem existed, and we want just another year, another chance to satisfy the board and satisfy the city. People come from all over the United States for this event. It's turning out to be something major for the city. And I brought with me retired Metro officer Claude Mann and Nate Haddocks. These are Claude handles the security, and Nate Haddocks is my partner on the event. And we're willing to take any questions or any suggestions, anything that we can do to make this event a success.
Mr. Smith, what is your plan for making sure that the ticketing situation is under control? Do you have a new technology that you're using? What is your plan?
Well, we plan to change ticket companies, because the ticket that we had, you can print it off on a regular printer, and it's hard. And when it gets dark at night, it's hard to deter which one. So we're going to have a better scanner at the door to scan the tickets. And once we get to that number, we're going to stop selling tickets and make sure that we don't go over the number that we put on the application. You want to say something?
Yes, ma'am. We had a problem with some major counterfeiters
that come from down south, the Atlanta and Birmingham area. I'm sure y'all read about that, about the CMA Awards. People bought bad tickets, and, you know, it's buyer beware. So by the time we was able to catch that situation, it had proliferated into several hundred people. And that caused a big problem also, till we realized that that's what was going on. And when I read in the paper back here last month that CMA had the same problem, then it came full circle to me that it was the same kind of problem we're dealing with. And by us dealing with a smaller budget and lesser technology than CMA awards have, it was just one of those things we had to face, and we had to bite that. Also with the security part, it kind of hits me when you say that, because I just started doing this yesterday. I started doing it about 30 years ago, even though it was kind of frowned upon on the police department. But I think this is the one with the fewest complaints as far as any kind of complaint this year. I think the biggest complaint we had was somebody smoking something smelled like marijuana, and another family didn't want them to set over by them. According to the man up in Washington, he wants to start making marijuana legal, so that's going to be a problem everywhere you go now. So you're going to have to hire double security now, because a lot of people don't want to smell that stuff in their clothes and stuff. So that's the biggest problem we had as far as dealing with the security part. And on the other part, that comes the day before Labor Day. And we just had a rush of people from West Tennessee that decided to make that 2 or 3 day weekend. And that's what happened also, because we was over at Titan Park. They gave us a parking lot the last time, right?
Right.
Yeah, and that had about the same amount of space. So transitioning from back over there to back over in Riverfront, it was a little bit of a difference that we had to accommodate for, because it did put us in a kind of a place. And we put all the VIPs out and chairs out. It just, a lot of people bought those VIPs. It just put us in a awesome situation. But the ticket thing.
Captain Chris Taylor wants to interject.
Yeah. Yeah, come on.
Not to belabor anything, they've had 2 events. The first event, they didn't have anything done, and it was a Tuesday with a Saturday event. We met with them, and when I say we, the park police, special events, we had Public Works and some other representatives along with Mr. Smith and his people. At that time, they hadn't hired a security company yet. They didn't have an approved security plan. They didn't have a site map. Both the events he's had are enclosed events, and by that I mean there's fencing around the entire event, so you can't get in unless you come through one of their entrances, where they're supposed to have security guards there to verify tickets and receive things. If there were a few hundred tickets, that wouldn't have been a big deal. There were over double the number of people that were supposed to be there. The first event had an application for 5,000 people. When we met with them that day, and again, this was a Tuesday prior to the event, usually we have these things done 30 to 60 days ahead of an event. This was 4 days ahead of an event. The only reason we met with them was to try and do everything we could to allow their event to continue, because they'd put a lot of money into different acts and everything coming in. When we did finally work with them after about 2.5 hours, we walked them through how to do a security plan, how to set up everything, and the agreement was that security company would do it. They understood exactly what their requirements were. On paper, everything was great. The problem was they didn't follow any of that. Again, if it's just 300 or 400 people coming in, that's not a big deal. This event was 5,000 people, and they had almost 10,000 in there. There were the walkways were so congested, the fire marshal came out. He couldn't close it down at the time because it was too crowded, and we were worried about the safety of everyone being able to evacuate. There was no way for us to get paramedics, fire service, police services, or anyone to anywhere in that facility because it was so crowded. In fact, to the point where their security was supposed to be there until the end of the event, they left early, 2 hours early. So for the last 2 hours of the event, the first event he had, they didn't have any security left. Luckily, there were park police officers and other officers that were there that had been hired. We moved them to different positions and tried the best we could to manage it, and thankfully, only because of God's blessing, nothing bad happened. The second event, we reiterated to him how important it was to have everything in line, and again, that he couldn't oversell tickets. The first event, he had given away almost 1,000 tickets by his own statement that day in the meeting. There were only supposed to be 5,000 people there. We asked him how many had sold. He said 3,000. So we said, okay, so you've got maybe 1,000 to sell at the gate, at the door at the most. When we asked that day, how many of you sold, he had no idea. They couldn't tell us. He couldn't tell us. None of the staff could tell us. And this is the day of the event. That's why they had over 10,000, around 10,000 people in there, because they purposely allowed that many people to come in. The second event, again, an enclosed event by fencing, specific access ways where only you could come in with tickets. 300 or 400 people wouldn't have been a big deal. That event was, I think, scheduled for 8,000. We had, from the fire marshal's estimate, 15,000. That's the fire marshal. I'm not saying our estimate was probably a little more than that, but we're going with what he said because that was the lesser number in this instance. Again, thankfully, nothing bad happened, but that doesn't mean it can't. And it's impossible to provide the proper services in a situation like that. Mr. Smith has shown through the 2 events that he has done himself that he will not follow what he says he's going to do, that he will not monitor his event. Because, again, the second event, he was asked, how many people do you have in here? Which he should be able to answer because it's a ticketed event. It's not like an event where they just pay to come in. You're supposed to have tickets pre-sold. Based on the number that you've pre-sold is how many you're allowed to sell that day at the gate. If it's an 8,000 event, you sold 7,000 tickets ahead of time, you can only sell 1,000 that day. Plain and simple. It's pretty easy math. But it escaped them that day. Again, where they oversold and continually allowed more and more people to come in. These are events that have alcohol, so that increases the risk. And the problem is there's a set specific number, 750 people per officer. When you start going past that, and those are industry accepted numbers. They're very, very general. In fact, if something bad happens, it's really small, but thankfully we usually have more police around, especially in the downtown area. But they're doubling it. So we're getting to a point where there's no way possible, if you have anything happen, for the police to respond in a timely manner or even be able to handle what's there. Add to that, you have that many people in one spot. Let's get aside from the fact that it tears up the park because it's not planned for that many. We don't have the maintenance, and in case you're not, the maintenance are hired ahead of time to provide the cleanup. Well, that event, the second event, maintenance was hired, and they were supposed to be there for, I think, 8 hours. I could be wrong on that. Maybe not even that long to clean up afterwards. They were there a day and a half. We're paying for that. When I say we, I mean the parks in the city of Nashville, because they've already paid their fees. Mr. Smith has shown on multiple occasions, because he also has helped with other events prior to these 2, where they will not follow the guidelines that are set out. They'll do the paperwork because we'll force them to do the paperwork properly now, but he has no intention of following up with it. And I feel very comfortable saying that, and if there's any question about the first meeting we had was recorded. Do I have any questions from the board? Thank you.
Okay, let me address what he said. There's a couple of, I guess, misstatements. The first event that he's speaking of took place at Public Square Park, and that was the Nashville Soul Music Festival, and that festival was starring En Vogue and Cameo. It was a very successful event. But what makes the numbers look, because they're not going by any of my ticket numbers, they're going by their eyes, and what makes the numbers look, the place look packed is because the whole, if you're at Public Square Park, the whole grass area was full of tables and chairs, and we, that was a reserved seating area, and everybody else around that was general admission people. So it just looks like a bunch of people, and it's not as the Nashville Soul Music Festival was not 10,000 people, and the barbecue festival was not 15,000. Yeah, it was not 15,000 people. He said that it was 10,000 people at the first festival, and it was 15,000 people at the barbecue festival. But our numbers are different. But I don't want to belinger. The numbers you published on social media was 16,000. That's publicity. Just trying to make it, and that's marketing. So basically, what I'm here today to try to do is all this took place this year. Last year before, I have not had a problem with attendance. This is a new problem that I just had this year. I'm asking the board to give me another shot to work with my security company, and basically my gift is marketing and promoting. That's what I do. I leave the security, and Nate handles the tickets, but basically I want another chance to produce this event. The city needs it. I think it's a great event, and I think that we just need to make a couple of corrections. This is not something that we've been having a problem with every year or something like this. This is the first time that I've had a problem with capacity. But I see this as a problem that can be rectified. I'm just asking the board for another a chance to get it right this year, and I'm guaranteeing you that we won't have this problem in the future. And another thing with Riverfront, we're going to ask for more space. This year we only had a half of First Avenue. We're going to hopefully get permission to get all of First Avenue and use some more of the roundabout and get more space to accommodate our people. But it's just getting more space. I think that we can get more space and just keep the numbers where we say the numbers are going to be, not go over those numbers. So that's basically what I'm asking.
I understand you're asking for more space, that you're going to bring the numbers down. Is that what I'm hearing? Or
Well,
maybe I misunderstood what you were saying.
It's,
You're going
it's
to get
two-
more
it's two
space,
things.
but you're going to bring the numbers down.
It's two things. Whatever number that I put the application in for, whatever number that I agreed to this board that the number is going to be, I cannot go over that number. Period. That's my understanding. So the second thing is, a lot of you all weren't at the event, but there are a lot of people there. A lot of the council came. It was a very well attended event, but it was a lot of people there. We need more space. This is a well attended event. It surprised us, and we're asking for a little bit more space, city space.
So then to be clear, when an organizer comes to our special events staff, they coordinate, and based on the capacity of the location is what is put on the permit. And we're looking at the footprint and what is under the control of the Parks Department. Anything beyond that will have to go to the city for approval to the Special Events Committee for that. This body only approves what is under the control of Parks. And so our staff know capacity of locations and can recommend certain locations, and that's the expectation is that whatever is on the document, capacity does not exceed that number.
And my main thing
Excuse me
is,
1 second. I think, Jim, did you have something?
To be clear, the Soul Music Festival was approved for 5,000, and the fire marshal and the MNPD and our police all felt like you had well over 5,000. So actually, the old school was your second chance, because on that one we weren't clear and there was some ambiguity because it was our eyes and we didn't know and we didn't have a count, as you say. And so we said, okay, on the second one we're going to really bear down on this, and we made it very clear that you had to follow the rules, and mostly everything we asked you to do, you did. But the permit was for 5,000, and you had well over 10,000. You yourself have said 16,000. But anybody that looked at the crowd, and I've got a picture if you wanted, it was well over 10,000. So you were approved for 5,000. You knew that's what you were supposed to have, and then you decided to not follow that. And that's so. For us, the issue is we just don't have confidence that you're going to do what you know you're supposed to do. And Terry went straight to the heart of it is, if you were to be approved to do this, how are we going to know that you're going to do what you say you're going to do this time, because you haven't in the past? And that's our issue. Right. And it's not the event. It is a good event. We really appreciate the event.
I think you need to bring us a plan, not just vague promises, because we have 2 strikes, obviously, from. So I think you should come back here with a plan for us to consider, and not just asking for third time.
let's do that.
That's my opinion.
Let's do that. Yeah.
I mean, y'all need to show us a plan to approve or not approve. I don't think we should do it any other way. I mean, that's just, what's the rest of the board think?
I can't approve it today.
Right,
without a plan.
right.
I agree. Absolutely. That's fair.
So I think you should just come back in front of
We're
the
going to
board.
defer this.
Deferred, I would make a motion.
1 meeting.
I'll make a motion to defer
Subject.
2 meetings.
We have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, 12/18/04, Mr. Mickey Hyder, representing the Old Timers Baseball Association, requests permission from the board to seek grant funding to provide artificial turf for the infield of both fields. I think we have a special guest who's going to introduce Mr. Hyder. Former Director Tommy Lynch.
Chairman, Reverend Anderson. I'm an appropriate spokesperson for the Old Timers Baseball group. I have dealt with the group obviously from my job with the Parks Department, and I'm aware of the stipulations the staff has made pertaining to the cost of the replacement of the turf on down the line, and I'm totally confident with discussion with Mr. Hyder. The group totally intends to take care of this facility the way they've taken care of it the last 30 years. So with that, I think I need to introduce Mr. Hyder, who the last time I was here about naming a field out there after him. And the benefit goes to the colleges, to the high schools, and to the East Nashville community as well with this group.
First of all, thank you to this board for the renaming of the field at Shelby Park. That's something my family will treasure for a long time, I'm sure. Basically, what we're requesting today is I've met with Rick Taylor and John Holmes and some other folks about the resurfacing of the infields, both fields at Shelby Park. Most of you are aware we've had an inordinate amount of rain this last year, 11 inches over normal, and the only way to get playability this day and time is through turf fields. Most of the major cities around the country have numerous, and we only have a couple. So we're trying to get these fields turfed, and we're seeking funding. I've already done some investigative work and identified enough grants to get the job done. It's now coming before you to get permission to actually secure those grants, and then come back to you at a later date to initiate that.
About how much is it? I'm just curious.
It's about a little over $260,000 per field. So it's about a $500,000 project. We've identified sufficient funds in premise to do that. I actually secured a firm that's what they do for a living to do the initial footwork to see if there's a sufficient amount of grants to do it in the first place. So before I got too in depth with them at some of the points that we need to do to actually initiate the project, thought we would come before you to get your permission and blessing so we could proceed.
I would move to approve.
Question?
Is there any work on this part of the staff, or work or expense in order to prepare the fields for installation or anything like any parkside expense?
All expenses to be borne by
All
Mr.
expense, okay.
Hyder. Go.
So we have a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. Moving to 12-1805, Mr. Butch Spiriton, President CEO of Nashville Convention and Visitors Center, requests permission to expand the sidewalk entrances to Walk of Fame Park for the purpose of adding additional stars on the Music City Walk of Fame. There's a graphic attached. It's two small sidewalks that actually former Director Lynch and I have met many times with Mr. Spiriton, and so they can expand their stars in their program there. I think the staff has requested approval. It's the two black lines there. Do you see them? Yeah.
Is it just widening it?
Yeah, we're just adding two small walkways, and they're going to bear the expense of it as well.
Does this show that, or is this?
Yeah, it's the black lines. It's like the.
These lines?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Those lines right there?
They go to the street?
It's just connecting the two walkways. It's, you see the black kind of like magic
I got
marker?
it.
Where?
All of this would be filled in
Oh.
with two black letters.
Is there a motion for approval?
Well, I did my homework, and
there a
I
second?
could not understand this.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. 12-1806, Mr. Clay Bailey, President of the Friends of Fort Negley, requests the board to accept the donation of an interpretive panel entitled A Birthplace of Freedom, valued at $4,650 to be installed at Fort Negley Park. I did not see Mr. Bailey here.
Jim.
Jim?
As you know, the story of the African Americans that lived and worked at Fort Negley is a very important part of the history. This is just a panel that commemorates that. The involvement of the Robert Penn Warren Center is a very exciting thing for us. It's national recognition of this. and they're donating this panel, and they will put it up. Krista, I think, is here. She was here. If she wanted to say anything else about the panel, a brief description about the interpretive panel.
Hi, thank you. So this new panel was created to match the existing interpretation of the fort, and it covers an interpretive gap in Fort Negley's current narrative, which is honoring the contraband laborers who built Fort Negley.
Any questions?
We would recommend approval.
Motion? Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, the motion carries. Moving to 12-1807, Mr. Mark Weller, Executive Director of the Friends of Warner Parks, requests the board to accept the grant in the amount of $51,936 to fund the salary of Jane Kleinman, Office Support Specialist 2, for the time period of January 1 through December 31, 2019, with the Metro Parks processing weekly timesheets and paychecks on an ongoing basis. Mr. Weller, would you like to speak?
Good afternoon. Well, thank you for allowing me to speak for just a few minutes. It has not been my practice to speak when requesting to have a grant approved, but this year is special because it's both a request and an opportunity to celebrate. In the mid-'80s, due to 60 years of heavy use and the limitations of Metro budget, Percy and Edwin Warner Parks were showing significant signs of wear and deterioration, and the impact was becoming visible. Metro Parks approached Claire Armistead, a neighbor of Percy Warner Park, with an idea to form a friends group to preserve and protect Warner Parks. And Claire was inspired by that vision. She organized a number of friends and civic leaders, and Metro Parks director Jim Fike presided over the first meeting of Friends of Warner Parks, where Warner Bass, the grandson of former Parks Director Edwin Warner, was elected the founding president. And so this strong partnership, the two organizations were forged. To spur growth in this fledgling small organization, Director Fike and Warner Bass determined that a collaboration for an office support position would guarantee a stable position under the Metro Parks umbrella. The office support position would be seated at the Warner Parks headquarters to assist with both organizations as the cornerstone of the public-private partnership. And the collaboration worked. Jane Kleiman was hired 24 years ago as an office support specialist to assist both organizations. She still works at Warner Parks headquarters, and she's with us today. Jane, would you stand and be recognized? For nearly 25 years, Jane Kleiman has loyally served Metro Parks and Friends of Warner Parks in this office support position. She was instrumental in helping build several Metro Parks programs, including Pen Pal Summer Camp for urban kids and Sweat Trail Maintenance team for young people. Today, Jane is often the only Metro Parks employee in the Warner Parks headquarters and has the ability to answer administrative and park-related questions or respond to emergencies, as she has done many times. Since 1994, the salary for this office support position has been fully covered by Friends of Warner Parks. Metro Parks Board and Metro Council have been consistent in approving this grant. But this year is special because this is the last year that Friends of Warner Parks will be requesting approval for this grant. Jane plans to retire at the end of 2019 after 25 years of service, and I hope we can all celebrate that milestone with her this time next year. So Friends of Warner Parks proposes that we continue this partnership one more year to ensure that Jane Kleiman is recognized for 25 years of service and contributions to Warner Parks. We are asking that you approve this grant as you have for the past 24 years, and I'm grateful for your consideration. And as a legacy partner, I hope you'll move this grant forward to the Metro Council. Any questions?
Any questions or discussion? I do have something. This, and I think everyone knows this, it's a pretty complicated matter, and this is just taking out the individuals. On April 9th of 18, Councilman wrote and sent a letter to Director Odom, signifying great concern about these grants, and they requested our assurance that they would be remedied. So during that time frame, another great friends group of ours, the Conservancy's grant, was taken away by council. And so this is more of a fairness issue for me because the Conservancy now is funding that position. And, we approve these positions unanimously every year. So it's disturbing that council decides to take away one grant and not another and comes and supports another. That's just my personal opinion. I'm a little conflicted on it because there's a double standard here, I think, from council. So that's just my opinion. It's a difficult situation because we got great friends groups who support and enhance our missions, and this is nothing against the Friends of Warner Parks, and you know that, Mark. But I'm just stating the fact that if you weren't here earlier this year, you need to know about that, and hopefully you read those letters. So just wanted to make the statement. It's this body's decision which matters, not this is just my opinion.
May I respond? Is that okay?
Sure.
And I agree, Mr. Roten did ask that these type of situations be sunset, that they be remedied. And he asked for the Park Board assurance that they will be remedied. He did not give a timeline for that. And actually, we're working together to remedy it one more year, and Janie will reach her 25th year and be able to retire as a employee of Metro Parks. To be consistent, although Metro Council did not approve this other grant that you were talking about, this body did. And I'm requesting that, to be consistent, this body approve it one more time and kick it up the road to Metro Council, and they may choose to approve it or may choose not to approve it.
Yeah, I would be happy to respond to what Mr. Anderson said, if I may. I think, respectfully, I reject the assertion that we took that other position away. What we said several years ago to Director Lynch, when that Friends grant-funded position at the Conservancy was brought to our attention, was that we had some concerns around that particular position. We understood from Director Lynch at that time and were told that that was somewhat of an anomaly. That it was the only one within your system that operated as such, where it was a friends group making the grant for the salary, and then Metro having the pension benefit and the health care benefit. From a fiscal management perspective, we expressed some concern about that. We did not write a letter at that time. I was chair of the committee at that time for the 2 years that we discussed this. So I absolutely can speak to our committee's intent in engaging in this conversation. We wanted to very respectfully engage, and we asked Director Lynch to please, bring to the attention of Chair Anderson, your board, Monique in her former role, that we had concerns about that, and respectfully, we didn't want to make a big deal about it. We just thought that that needed to be sunsetted, understanding that that was the only one like that. So 1 year later, it came back before us. And we said, oh, Director Lynch, we had talked about this. Where are we on this? Again, want to be respectful of that position, appreciate the great work that person has done. Don't want her not to be in that role. Just want to, from a fiscal management perspective, address this sort of linkage as to the long-term benefits. We needed to address kind of the structure. And so when that then came around again, Councilman Roten, my colleague, was chair of the committee. Councilman Roten chose to take a more aggressive approach with the letter that Chair Anderson alluded to because, frankly, in the spirit of sunsetting something, that was the third year. So we had already brought to the Parks Department attention that we had concern in the way that was structured. And so subsequent to that, another thing that our board called out was what we thought was the importance of, in our grant acceptances that come through our committee, subsequent to them coming through you all, that we called out by separate resolution all these different pieces, right? So whether it's a $6,000 air hockey table from the Friends of Shelby, or grant funding for summer positions like the wonderful sweat program that Ms. Kleinman has founded and administered, so that we could see those kind of separate pieces and understand from a fiscal management perspective what we were doing there. And so new also in that year, the year that Chair Roten sent that letter, was kind of pulling apart. Previously, to Chair Anderson's point about, this has just been approved for the past 24 years, the sweat grants, Ms. Kleinman's employment, those all used to be kind of batched into one Friends grant acceptance. And that's why, both through the assertions of Director Lynch and from what had come before us, we did not understand that there was also a position that was similar to the Conservancy position, but I would assert is not analogous. Okay, so there are similarities between this position, but respectfully, the position at the Conservancy was more recent. That was at the initiation of that board. So if that board feels that they want to have someone in a leadership role with a six-figure salary, more power to them. But what that means from a Metro perspective is then now that position will now have a pension commensurate with a six-figure salary over a certain period of time in perpetuity, right? So the difference being, Friends group initiated fairly recent for a particular initiative. I think at the time it was around a capital campaign. She did such wonderful work, stayed in that role, and that was wonderful. I mean, we appreciated the work that was done. But with Ms. Kleinman, as Mr. Weller spoke to, that was something 24 years ago that the Parks Department felt was an important position to have someone on staff within the Warner Parks on site. So, respectfully, the Parks Department never would have said, we need a position at Centennial Park that is six figures, and we're going to write that into the budget and carry that forward for many, many years. They would have and did say, we need an office support specialist at the Warner Parks, and that's something that we have a budgetary and staffing need for. So while there is a similarity that these were both grant Friends funded and they have related pensions, I believe that one more year of this grant is in the spirit that our council committee initiated this fiscal conversation. We said this structure needs to sunset. And as Mr. Weller alluded to, there was no date certain in that letter. There were 3 years provided as it related to the conservancy relationship. And I understand in the end, that board was not happy about this, but I think there is a kind of unfair or not right assertion that the council, just yanked that away. We had been having that conversation in committee with the director for many years, and I think Ms. Odom can speak to that. And so this came to our attention last year. We respect that, we don't want to pull the rug out from anybody, and the way in which this position was initiated and conducted throughout those many 24 years, we think it is very appropriate that this be the 25th and final year. And as I shared with you at the outset, Committee Chair Jeff Syracuse concurs in that support, as does Council Lady Van Reese and many other members of our committee. And so I have no doubt that when this comes to council, that we will approve this and secure the grant funding for the 25th and final year of Ms. Kleinman's employment.
Well, a couple things. We just got this letter in April of 18, and the Conservancy, just for the record, asked for that position to be sunset within this calendar year, and that was not granted. And I think that's where I have real issue here, is that would have been an easy way to sunset that relationship or that grant. And I was personally taken back because I was on the first Conservancy board 20 years ago. It's not a new board. And the Conservancy's been around for 20 years raising money for Centennial Park.
Understood.
I just felt like
it was a new board.
I feel like council is not being consistent here. And again, it has nothing to do with the Friends of Warner Parks. And I think the position on the Conservancy was absolutely wrong and not fair for what they've done for the park. And it was a deal that was cut a long time ago. Nobody here had anything to do with it. But we should have sunset it, I think, a little bit more fairly, and now to come back and nothing against, you do fabulous work, Ms. Kleinman, nothing against you at all. This is just more of a point that I just don't think it was handled right, and that's where I have a real issue with it.
I understand, Chair Anderson, but again, respectfully, on the record, our committee from 2015 was saying that we felt that...
Nobody on this board heard that, so you'll know.
But that onus is not on me. If we as a committee say to the director of your department that we feel there is a need to sunset this,
we have nothing in writing like that. So anyway, that's the past. We can't do anything about it. I just want to make the point.
Okay, but I would encourage you all as a board, please, I respect Chair Anderson's position. These are similar situations, but let's please not conflate them. The spirit of what council was talking about was this fiscal arrangement. With the end of Ms. Kleinman's 25th year, that means there are no more of these type arrangements on the books, and that is, in my view, as the person, frankly, who initiated this conversation. And Chair Anderson, I was attempting to be respectful by just speaking with the director, not trying to make a big deal out of it, not trying to draw a line in the sand. And so, perhaps shame on me. I should have maybe sent an official letter in year one, and then we would not have been talking about Chair Roten's letter. But respectfully, Councilman Roten is not chair of the Parks Committee anymore. Councilman Syracuse is. And he asked me to please express to you his very strong support, as did Councilwoman Van Reese, who is vice chair of said committee, her strong support for this grant. So respectfully to Chair Anderson and his position, please do not conflate these two things. And I remain available for any questions you have.
I move approval of staff of accepting the grant.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. All right, moving on to, that's my place here, 12-1808, Creative Parks Nashville request board approval for application and ultimate acceptance of FY 2020 grant funding of $4,500 from the Tennessee Arts Commission, Arts Project Support Grant, to supplement a year of free big band dances for the public with Metro Parks to provide matching funds required of the grant.
Steve?
Yes, the Tennessee Arts Commission changed its format, so now the friends can apply for it and match it. The big band dance occurs from June to August with attendance of $2,500 a week and $30,000 for the summer.
And it is a great program.
Thank you.
Move to approve.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? 121809, staff requests board approval to adopt the name Mansker Creek Park for the site currently referred to as Goodlettsville Park, located at 7744 Old Springfield Pike. I think this is supposed to be deferred to the naming committee at the next meeting. 121810, staff requests board approval to adopt the name Frankie Pierce Park for the site currently referred to as Capitol View Park, located at 130 Lifeway Plaza. Again,
Krista Castillo is going to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She's going to talk about that one.
Krista? I didn't realize you were speaking on it.
Which one is this?
This is 1810.
Although this will be referred to committee, we wanted to take the opportunity to share with you some of the historical research that Krista has done on the naming recommendation.
That's good.
Okay. Can you go to the next slide, please? Oh. So within a few decades of Nashville's founding, the city developed a very cosmopolitan atmosphere. And those made wealthy by banking and slave trading chose to live within the city limits, in and around downtown. With limited property to manage, but still determined to advertise their affluence through slave ownership, many of these owners rented slaves to private individuals and businesses, which allowed these quasi-free people to live independently among poor whites and free African Americans. By the 1830s, this arrangement proved to be problematic, and Nashville passed a series of laws aimed at preventing those living on the cusp of self-determination from demanding freedom. As a result, an insular community developed just outside the city limits. Poor and largely lawless, this area became known as Hell's Half Acre, and that is the area in green is where this park is located today. Next slide. The child of a house slave and a freeman, Juno Frankie C., was born into this curious system sometime near the end of the Civil War. After receiving a formal education at the Joseph G. McKee Freedman School and Roger Williams University, Frankie briefly taught school in Nashville. In 1895, she married Clement Pierce of Paris, Texas, and relocated to his hometown. But during her absence, she remained active in the First Baptist Colored Church on 8th Avenue, and she often spoke to women's clubs and other groups on visits to Nashville. Following Clement's death in 1912, Frankie returned to Nashville to live with her mother, who had become active in community life. Frankie took a teaching position at Bellevue School, located on 5th Avenue North, within blocks of the growing Hell's Half Acre. She increased her activity at the church and joined civic groups such as the Negro Board of Trade. Next slide. Recognizing the impact that organized women could have on society, Frankie founded and presided over the National Federation of Colored Women's Clubs and the Tennessee Federation of Colored Women's Clubs, and was a founding member of the Negro Women's Reconstruction Service League. Prior to the passing of accommodation laws, these groups, under Frankie's leadership, successfully pressured Montgomery Ward Department Store to install the first public restrooms for black women in downtown Nashville. Devoted to uplifting the African American community, Frankie tirelessly and gracefully navigated segregated society, taking leadership positions in the colored branches of historically white organizations. This strategy allowed her to build friendships and alliances with influential white women. And one example of this came in 1919 when Frankie and the leader of the then segregated Young Women's Christian Association formed the Blue Triangle League, which was the colored branch of the YWCA. Within a year of the founding, the league offering African American women and girls a social outlet, a place to live, and a variety of classes and programs, outgrew the third floor of the Napier Court building on 4th Avenue, and they relocated to 5th Avenue North. During World War I, Frankie served on various committees for the Red Cross and the YMCA. In July 1918, she spoke at an event under the auspices of the colored chapter of the Council of National Defense, focusing on improving social conditions, including sexual health among soldiers and civilians. On May 18, 1920, at the invitation of nationally recognized suffrage leader Catherine Kenney, Frankie addressed the state suffrage convention held in the House chamber of the Tennessee Capitol. She was the only African American woman invited to speak at this victory convention of the Tennessee League of Women's Voters. And she asked the question, what will the Negro woman do with the vote? And in response, she laid out a poignant defense for racial and gender equality, drawing on the common bonds forged by war. Okay, next slide. When the 19th Amendment passed, Frankie and the Tennessee League of Women Voters leveraged this new power, securing state funding to establish a Tennessee vocational school for colored girls. The 66-acre campus located on Hyman Street opened in 1923 and immediately began accepting 12 to 15-year-old girls from juvenile courts across the state, essentially ending the barbaric practice of jailing children for even minor offenses. As superintendent, Frankie worked tirelessly to gain support for the school from community leaders, and this is the 1930 federal census where it lists Frankie as superintendent, as well as her teachers and students within her care. Following her retirement in 1939, Frankie's successors maintained her vision, expanding the school to offer primary and secondary education and psychological counseling. During the 1930s, she chaired the women's division of the Tennessee Interracial League and served as vice president of the Negro Voters League. During this extraordinary period in her life, she also was the sole supporter of her older sister and mother, who lived to be 117 years old. During World War II, Frankie led the Red Cross's women's division, and in 1948, she served on the 6th District Republican Election Committee and campaigned for a place on the Tennessee Republican Party State Executive Committee. Next slide. In 1951, the Nashville chapter of Lynx Incorporated, a national organization of professional women of color, named Frankie Woman of the Year. On March 22nd, 1954, Frankie suffered a cerebrovascular hemorrhage and died 6 days later. Her death certificate listed her occupation as leader in civic and religious organizations. Frankie was buried in Greenwood Cemetery, and following her death, the community continued to honor her legacy of service and her devotion to social change. In 1966, the school she worked so tirelessly to found named a new dormitory in her honor. Next, please. And a Tennessee historical marker honoring Frankie, located at 2700 Herman Street, is currently part of the Tennessee Women's Suffrage Heritage Trail. On August 28, 2016, the Tennessee Women's Suffrage Monument was dedicated in Centennial Park. Next, please. During Frankie's life, Hell's Half Acre grew to include more than 100 acres of North Nashville. And by her death, the area was in the process of being swept away by urban development. And although the inequity that Hell's Half Acre represented is difficult and uncomfortable to confront today, the life and work of Frankie Pierce is definitely worth honoring.
Jeff Haynes will recuse himself from this, and also want to thank him for really marshaling getting this park put in the Capitol View development. We appreciate that, Jeff, a lot. Moving on to 12-18-11, staff request board approval to enter into an excess land license agreement with the Tennessee Department of Transportation for the purpose of constructing and maintaining a multi-use pedestrian greenway on a 0.51 acre parcel along Interstate 440 adjacent to the northbound ramp onto northeastbound West End Avenue as part of the 440 Greenway. That will be deferred to acquisition. Moving to 12-18-12, staff request board approval for tennis rates for seniors ages 62 and up at Hadley Center and Centennial Sportsplex. Those were listed in front of you.
Steve Nella.
Steve? Oh, sorry.
This provided our growing senior population opportunity to play tennis at a discounted rate.
Board seeks approval. We have a motion. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Sorry. We have a few special presentations, and I want to remind everyone we need to keep these to about 3 minutes if we can. Friends of Bells Bend Park to present annual update to the board. Is there someone here from Bells Bend?
No.
That was quick. Friends of Beeman Park to present annual update to the board. Is someone from Beeman here? They submitted their documents, so we have them for review. If anybody want to make any comments about any of those? Okay. They are, all of them are. Representatives of the Oasis Center and Sorba to present update on a new facility to be developed at Watkins Park.
On your consent agenda today, you all approved a renewal of the annual permit with Sorba Southern Off-Road Bicycle Association for the development and maintenance of mountain bike trails throughout the park system. One site that has been added to that annual permit is Watkins Park, and Sorba and Oasis are partnering on a pump track development project there, and so this is some quick information about that.
A quick thank you, Chairman, Director Odom. Thank you for your time today, other members, and thank you for the approval on the MOU. I'm going to let the video do most of the talking, but you know the leadership from the Oasis Bike Workshop and from Sword Mid-10 are just really excited about this project, and we hope that this video helps garner some support because we do have a few more steps to get this to completion. But we secured an architect, and we have started on plans, so we will be working with the appropriate agencies at that point in time. So I'll let the video speak for itself.
We started the mountain bike team, kind of grew out of this bike building workshop 4 seasons ago. So they just finished their 4th season with the Tennessee High School Mountain Bike League. The majority of our teens who come through this program build mountain bikes and BMX bikes and want to ride them off road. But the closest trail is Percy Warner's, I don't know, 6-8 miles away. So they really can't get out there unless we're picking them up and driving them out there in our van.
It actually has influenced a lot of my life. I wouldn't be doing the things I am now without the bike shop. I would probably, like, on the weekends be in the house if I didn't have a bike shop. I want a job, so I walking up the street and asking for a job at a place that I had heard about in the bike shop, because there was this guy who worked there. He said that he needed some help in the summer, and I could come talk to his boss, and so that's what I did. And I ended up telling my parents, and they were cool about it. So the next day, I started working there.
Kids have always been into bikes. I hope that they're always going to be into bikes. But if they're getting flats or busting their wheels, that bike's not getting ridden anymore. It's just going to sit.
There was this kid who lived a block away from me who was shot inside of his home. So there is a lot of gun violence going on in my community. But the pump track, I think it would invite a lot more people into the bike shop itself, and then probably invite more people into the mountain bike team. And then with doing that, it can create a safe haven for children who are trying to get away from that. So with the pump track, I think it's a step up from what it's been all these years.
We want to make sure that it's a safe space for kids and families and adults alike to recreate in a metro park, to drive out any illegitimate users that are there by placing legitimate users in their place. For me, where the real magic happens, it's just all different communities coming together for two wheels, because regardless of economic status or race or culture, religion, or everybody understands bicycles, old and young, and it's just cool to see that culminate in a park like that, like it can. It's just awesome.
And Jen Garcia is here, former park board member, representative of Oasis. It's going to be a good partnership.
Thank you for that. All right, capital project update, Jim.
I'll just hit the changes from last month. Construction bids are due this month on the Antioch Community Center renovation. At Capitol View last month, you all approved our applying for a $100,000 LPRF grant for that. We've been notified that we have received that award. That's pending approval by Metro Council. Centennial Park Master Plan Phase 2, those construction bids are in now and they're currently under review. And in Percy Warner Park, we have undertaken an alley engineering report in partnership with Friends of Warner Parks, and we have a draft complete document on that.
All right, moving to upcoming special activities and events.
Yes, tonight from 4:30 to 6 p.m. we have the menorah lighting at Public Square Park. On Saturday we have 3 events going on at Fort Negley that take place from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's a fossil finding event, as well as a lecture and a guided walking tour. And just a reminder that the holiday art sale ends on December 14th.
Thank you for that. Before we get, any department updates? Before we get to the director's report, 2 points. One is I want to thank on behalf of the department and the board, Butch Spiriton and the Nashville Convention and Visitors Corporation they sponsored a float in the parade, Christmas parade, and invited on their float for some of our children from the community centers to ride. I think we had up to 15 there. I think they had a great time doing it, and I think it's going to happen again next year. So we really appreciate that. It was a really great parade and very well done. So, and secondly, next board meeting is supposed to be on January 1st, but I'm suggesting we move it to the 8th, if that's okay with everybody. All right, report of the director.
All right, just a few updates from happenings in the department. A volleyball league for middle school girls has been started, and it will operate at East and Easley Community Centers. It's the first of its kind and was one of the creative brain children of our community recreation staff, Darlene Morrow in particular. So we're excited about that. I think Metro Schools will also be involved with that. The bridge at Hartman Park has been repaired. So everybody watching this on TV, let me say that again. The bridge at Hartman Park has been repaired. It had been out for quite some time, and folks were concerned about it, and we've got that repaired, and so we're happy about that. Our staff is continuing to coordinate with the city and other agencies across the city to prepare for the 2019 NFL Draft. that will be hosted here in the city at the end of April, April 29th through the 25th, although work for that will start well in advance. That is the same weekend as the Rock and Roll Marathon, so it should be exciting downtown at the end of April. We continue to participate and coordinate with other departments, especially social services and the sheriff's department on the warming shelter that is being hosted at Shelby Community Center. I want to thank all the staff who are supporting that effort. We will meet with the Office of Management and Budget late next week to kind of do a review of this fiscal year's budget and see where we are in terms of our related to our salary savings targets. I know that we are on target and probably ahead of target, but we will have that conversation with them. And then I also want to mention that our Parks Police has facilitated active shooter training for our staff, community center staff. I know they did it for this campus as well, but they'll also, in the next few months, also conduct that training for open air areas, locations like golf courses as well. So I want to thank them for that and just let everybody know that even though it's winter, winter is coming, the parks are still a very busy place. So get into something at the parks. Thanks.
Any other comments or future agenda items or anything? If not, I'll entertain a motion for dismissal.